Happy Sunday from Portugal. Sunny and gorgeous Sunday in Portugal. Today is day 12 of the 21-day LinkedIn Live challenge, which means that we have passed midway 21 days, which I'm super excited about. And if you have not seen the previous lives, go ahead and watch it on my LinkedIn profile or on YouTube. And as always, I kindly ask you to share these videos with someone you have in mind because you know they will benefit from watching these videos. It would mean the absolute world to me. Today, I want to talk about something very, very important, and that is the power in you, the power inside of you, the power that you've got. The power that is deep within you, and yet you're probably not utilizing it fully. And yet you're probably not accessing it fully, even though it's there. The power inside of you that is there, and yet something is holding you back from it, away from it. That's what we're going to talk about today. I want you to think about situations in life when you felt somewhat disempowered, when you felt like someone canceled you, someone took that power away from you, someone made you feel as if you can't achieve something, you can't go for it, you can't succeed in something. Maybe it was your father who said, "Are you kidding me? Of course you can't make that happen. Like this is only for the rich people, or this is only for the successful people, or this is only for the famous people, or this is only for XYZ." You fill in the blank. Maybe it was your mother who kept on talking about how it's out of our league. This is not who we are. That's not what we do. Maybe it was something that you constantly heard on the TV or on the radio growing up. There was this underlying narrative that as a nation, even, it's not something that you do. Maybe as a nation, and that was definitely something that was happening in the Lithuanian society where I grew up, that, well, Lithuanians were constantly in fear mode. They were constantly afraid of the future, of uncertainty, of the unknown, of the political situation, of the economical situation. There was always the narrative of you have to always constantly watch out. And you can't really count on a bright future because you never know what's around the corner, and a bear might come from the forest and attack you. Maybe it was someone in your high school. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe someone was picking on you. Maybe there was a group of kids who were disliking you actively, and they were kind of making you feel like life just really sucks and it's not gonna happen for me. The stars did not line up for me and it's not gonna happen. Now, maybe you still, despite all of these stories, you still achieved great stuff. Maybe you still found somewhat, some level of power to create an amazing life. Maybe you still went for it. You found the courage You believed in yourself enough because maybe you had some supportive grandma who kept on, you know, kind of suddenly, sneakily saying, yeah, but I know you can do this. I believe in you. And so her voice was in your mind constantly. Despite all the odds, you somehow always still felt some kind of support from someone. Maybe it wasn't even your grandma, maybe it was just the universe speaking to you. Maybe it was God speaking to you. Maybe it was written in the books. Maybe you were reading books and you were a complete book nerd and you were constantly reading the books that made you believe that there is something more to it, that you can do it, that magic is possible, that an incredible life is possible for you. I know a lot of people are in love with Harry Potter books, and that's what they tell me. I've never read Harry Potter books, but that's what they tell me, that that's what ignited this fire and passion within them, because in those books, they found this magic that it's possible to create something out of thin air. So, whatever it was, it kind of gave you a sense of it is possible for me. Magic is possible. And because of that, you were finding that power within you. However, not fully, not 100%. You know deep down that you were holding yourself back. You are kind of hitting the brakes. You were accelerating and then hitting the brakes, accelerating and then hitting the brakes. You were achieving and then you were like, well, but this is too much. I'm doing all of these things and it's really exciting. But it's becoming overwhelming and it's too stressful and I will slow down. You were kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And oftentimes you were actually sabotaging yourself by some doubtful inner talk. Someone inside your head kept on creeping in and telling you, actually, I think you're being too naive. I think it's why do you keep believing like it's not going to happen? And you were listening to that voice, you were listening to that creep, you were listening to that doubtful inner voice who was holding yourself back. So you see, you have now this picture of you are achieving some great stuff based on that inner belief, that inner voice that believes in you, that knows it's possible, that knows magic is going to happen. And yet you are holding yourself back because that other inner voice who is telling you that, well, no, actually, you can't really succeed at that level. You can succeed to a certain degree. There's a ceiling. Remember? You can't achieve everything that you desire. And that's why it's holding you back, that inner voice. And so there's this duality. There's this angel sitting on one shoulder, and there's this devil sitting on the other shoulder. And both of them are kind of negotiating what you're going to actually achieve. What are you going to actually create in your life? So here's the thing. You have infinite power within you. You have infinite potential. You have infinite possibilities available to you. The question is, who are you listening to? Which voice is the dominant voice in your head? I know that in my case, the dominant voice was the doubtful self, was the one who was holding myself back, was the one who didn't feel like I deserved a great life. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I was going to succeed at a crazy level. The dominant voice in my head was the one who was walking on eggshells and trying to kind of play this game and like kind of somehow succeed by accident. Like, whoopsie, it kind of, I succeeded. I got a promotion. Whoops, I succeeded by meeting this lovely person and you know, ending up in a relationship with them. Whoopsie, it just kind of happens to me, right? But that happened because I was a vibrational match to that reality, right? So the dominant voice was the doubtful, insecure one. But then there was some part of me who still believed that it's possible. And that's why I got those promotions. And that's why I ended up in beautiful relationships, for example. So some great stuff was happening in my life. Now, that can be flipped completely, where instead of, let's say, having 70% of your inner talk being the doubtful self and 30% being the one who believes in you fully, you can flip it completely and start really truly believing in yourself, something like 70%. And only 30% of the time you doubt yourself. These numbers are completely, it's just for some kind of orientation. Eventually, you can even have 90% of positive inner talk, the one who believes in you, and only 10% of some doubt and insecurity and fear. In the beginning, as you're going through this journey, you might feel like from 70% of negative talk, you're reducing it to 60% and 55% and 51%. And then one day you realize, oh, now it's 50-50. How amazing is that? And then you start living more in the positive side. You start dominantly being in the positive, believing in yourself, taking the bold action, being brave, being courageous, being determined, being devoted to your path, being excited about your vision, your desires, allowing yourself to dream big. And so, bit by bit by bit by bit, from 70% of negative thoughts, you start switching into eventually 90% of positive thoughts, and maybe even more. Who knows? But that is possible. And when you live in that place, that's when possibilities really show up and present themselves. That's when you become so much more magnetic and creative and productive. You can handle so much more. You can handle so much more adversity. You can handle so much more risk. Because you believe in yourself so much more, you're doing also so much more. And you're attracting far more interesting and exciting people, far more interesting and exciting opportunities in your life. Again, it doesn't have to be 90%. It doesn't even have to be 70%. The whole point is to be on this journey of constant improvement, to keep on catching your thoughts and switching, to keep on noticing when you're listening to the devil and you keep on kind of feeding the devil by listening to those thoughts and going on some kind of a downward spiral and interrupting that spiral and then being like, wait a second, I actually don't want to listen to that side of me. I want to listen to the positive side of me. And so every time you interrupt that cycle, every time you interrupt that pattern, every time you catch yourself thinking in a negative way, you address that, you catch that, you try to understand that, but most importantly, you switch it into believing in yourself because that side does exist in you. So I wanted to set this as a foundation for today's conversation, and I wanted to share a little story that represents how I used to function back in the day. So this happened probably nearly 8 years ago in my last corporate job that I ever had. Imagine I just joined this company. I'm a newbie, a rookie, and I just finished the introductory week where they were explaining everything about my job, about the company, about the teams, about who I will have to work with and how. And I got my very first appointment about a project. So I was working as a project manager at the time. And I am in the sales strategy team, international sales strategy team. We have about 10 countries globally that we take care of, and I work on sales related topics, sales related projects in this team. And I have a teammate in my team who is just a teammate. He's not my boss or anything. He is basically at the same level as me because both of us are reporting to our manager. And yet, he is one of those individuals who feels like he owns the entire company. If you can envision someone who walks through the office in an open office area, and every time he walks, he talks super loud. You can feel that his energy fills the entire building, the entire floor, the entire space, and everyone, they want it or not, notices him. Whenever he is around, everyone knows that he is around. The way he walks is this hectic and very active, and he always wants to be around and walking around. If he is talking on the phone, he is talking really loud and very intensely. He's a very intense person. And so this kind of person was assigned to give a few projects to me and give some direction on how I'm supposed to do what in this very new environment, a very new job, right? And so I'm doing my job. I'm doing everything that he's asking me to do or telling me to do, and I'm learning. I'm a newbie. All is fine. All is very exciting. Everything is great. And then I remember one Monday morning, and all of this was happening in Berlin when I lived in Berlin at the time. And so I arrive to the office first thing in the morning, and I was always one of the early birds, right? So it's about 8 in the morning, and I arrive, I sit at my desk, I start my day, I start working on the things that I was told to do. I don't really exactly remember what it was, but that's not the point of the story. And the office is kind of empty-ish. There are just a couple of people, and I say hi, I make my coffee, I have little chit-chats here and there with my colleagues, getting to know each other because I'm new. And this colleague of mine also comes to the office, as always, with the usual energy, filling the space, like taking off his coat and putting it away and being all intense and all. And then he asks me to come over. And I was like, yeah, sure. What do you need? What do you want? And that's when it begins. He starts raising his voice. He starts telling me, literally shouting at me in an open office, how I'm not supposed to do it this way, that I am not doing it the right way, that it's all ridiculous, that I need to ask the right questions. I don't actually remember what the exact situation was all about, to be honest, but all I remember was me feeling so small, so tiny, me shrinking into this little child, little girl, and just almost like looking up to him and feeling like, yeah, I just remember being paralyzed, really. I remember feeling so shook and so embarrassed and so small. And I remember being so humiliated because as he was shouting at me, my other colleagues were coming in because it was morning, right? So my other colleagues were entering the office and everyone was witnessing what was happening. And so I was shouted at as a grown-up woman. I was probably, what? So if it was about 8 years ago, I was probably around 27 years old. As a grown-up woman, I'm being shouted at and I'm paralyzed. My throat, like I can't say anything. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. So I'm humiliated, I'm embarrassed, and that's basically where it ends because I don't say anything against him. I can feel it all in my chest right now. It was probably one of the most humiliating, the most embarrassing, the craziest moments in my entire life. Even right now, I can feel my heart beating like crazy in my chest. So, how do you feel? How do you think I moved on from that experience? What do you think was my inner talk? What do you think I believed about myself in that situation and after that situation? For days and days and weeks and months after that experience, I felt inferior. I still felt embarrassed. I was afraid of this colleague. Every time I had meetings with him, every time I crossed paths with him, every time I had to engage with him, interact with him on any situation, if it was related to work, if it was related to my projects, or if it was related to just bumping into him in the kitchen while getting a cup of coffee. Every single time I felt inferior. So here is why I'm sharing this story. Is because in that moment, in that crazy interaction that I had with him, in that moment when he was shouting at me, I gave my power away to him. In that moment, I listened to my inner voice, who was the negative inner voice, the one who felt like I was not good enough. I didn't know what I was doing. I was the little girl. Other people know better than me. Other people have power over me. And so, for a very long time after that, for months in fact, I continued feeling that embarrassment. I continued feeling that lack of power. I continued feeling inferior. I continued feeling like I don't have power over my own life, over my own voice. I couldn't speak up for myself until one day, a couple of years later, when I started working with my coach Barbara that I already mentioned in some of the previous lives that I invite you to watch, I told her that story. And as I was telling that story to her, I started reclaiming my power back. That's when I started realizing that, yes, I gave my power away, but you know what? I have the power inside of myself to reclaim it back to me. I have the power to rewrite that story. And instead of feeling embarrassed for the rest of my life, instead of feeling ashamed because I was so ashamed of that situation, I was so ashamed for how I handled it, for the fact that other people witnessed it, for the fact that I allowed that person to treat me this way. I was so freaking ashamed. But then, when I started reclaiming the power, when I started rewriting the story, when I started giving myself the chance to really become the powerful self, become the version of me who would never allow something like this to happen. That's when I started realizing, you know what? I needed to experience that embarrassment, that shame, that humiliation, because that was just almost like a pimple coming through the skin. It's like it's really painful, it's growing and growing and growing, and then suddenly it pops. That was that. The shame was always there. The inferiority was always there. Giving away the power was always there. It was always there, like a volcano. There's pressure building up, right? It's growing and growing and growing. The pressure is growing, and suddenly volcano pops, explodes, right? It's exactly the same. That situation was just showing me that this is who I allowed myself to be all that time, all those years, up until that time. And a couple of years later, until I started addressing that with my coach. And so then, when I worked through it, when I was revisiting that experience, revisiting who I have been up until the time I started addressing it, what I learned is that, you know what, from now on, I will never allow anyone to talk to me like this. I will never allow anyone to treat me like this. Not in front of others and not between the two of us, ever. It's a complete impossibility. If someone ever even attempts to treat me this way, whether it's just between us or it's in a public space or it's within a family, it doesn't quite matter. If someone even attempts something like that, I will stand up for myself. Why? Because I suddenly unlocked that power that was always there inside of me. I unlocked and I claimed it back to me. Those fragments that I have somehow released up until 27 years of age, somehow I let go of them. I reclaimed them back. That power that I sent away from myself, I claimed it back to me. And so that experience in that open office was the volcano that erupted in order for me to claim it back, to claim back the power, to claim back who I really am, to stand up for myself, to train myself to no longer shoot myself in the foot, to no longer succumb to these kind of situations, to no longer feel like a victim, to no longer feel like I can't speak up, I can't stand up, I can't say no. That's not how you talk to me. So that experience was so crucial in my journey that it helped me to become the version of me who I am today. And so I'm sharing this story so that you think through your own life journey and you can identify those experiences which, looking back, you feel like, I wonder why I allowed that to be the case. And of course, when you look back at those moments, you will realize that it's because you gave your power away. Maybe you allowed someone to mistreat you. Maybe you allowed someone to disrespect you. Maybe you were not as firm in your decision, so you allowed other people to affect your decision. Maybe you were a little bit wobbly with your vision, and when you shared your vision, somebody kind of started disregarding it or laughing at it and almost like, are you kidding me? This is, you cannot do that. You can't achieve that. Who do you think you are? That's not possible for you. And so you allowed those people to affect your vision and you started doubting yourself. Where did you allow other people or society or even things that you heard on the TV or on the radio to hold you back, to make you feel like you can't achieve what you desire? As if you can't make it happen, as if you can't create your reality exactly the way you desire it to be, as if you can't make those dreams come true, as if you can't have that big of a lofty, crazy, wild vision, as if you can't. Who said that? Because whoever said that from your external world and you allowed that to sit inside of you and it became an internalized inner self-talk, that's not who you are. That voice who doubts your great, huge, lofty, delicious, juicy vision, it's not who you are. Who you are is the one who stands up for it, who stands firm, who believes in it, who trusts it, even if not even one single person on this planet believes in you. I believe in you. If no one else in your family, in your surroundings, in your friend circle believes in you and your vision, I believe in you because I'm telling you, I've been there myself. I believe in every single crazy thing that you desire. I believe it is possible because I know it is possible for you. I know it is possible. So, as a result of this day 12 LinkedIn Live, I want you to really spend time on looking through the experiences you had in your life where you internalized some external feedback or insight or paradigm or belief or a thought, and you made it your truth. Something that made you somewhat believe that it's not possible for you, somewhat believe that it's not in the stars for you, somewhat believe that it's not going to happen, even if you really, really, really want it, even if it really, really, really resonates with you, even if in your deepest secret dreams, you really wish it was something that was unfolding for you. You really wish it was becoming your reality. You wish you achieved it. You wish you created it. You wish you manifested it. Let go of those stories. Rewrite those stories. Look back at those stories and turn them around and claim your power back. And instead of listening to your little devil telling you what you can and cannot do, you're like, okay, thanks for your opinion, but actually I choose different and I believe in myself. And instead of having 70% dominant negative self-talk, you start training your brain to believe in yourself more and more and more and more. And if you need my support, I will be there for you because I believe in you no matter what, because I've seen too many success stories. I've guided people through too many success stories to claim their power and to create incredible things in their lives when it comes to their relationships, when it comes to their business, when it comes to their wild, lofty dreams, building businesses, whatever they desired. I know it is possible for you. And you know it too. You know it too. Great advice. Thank you so much, Frank, for listening in. So happy that you're here. That's so cool. You're AI and quantum engineer. That's super awesome. Sounds like some very exciting field of expertise. All right. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Please share this video with someone who would benefit from it. It would mean the absolute world to me. Share it on your LinkedIn profile or privately with people, or find these videos also stored on my YouTube channel and share the YouTube links with them. Thank you so much for being here, and see you tomorrow on day 13. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. I love you and see you very soon.